About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You, welcoming you to the second of our little set of sessions for BTEC National Diploma in Health and Social Care. And tonight we're going to be looking at Unit 4, and particularly thinking about some of the skills and some tips that you could use for the pre-release, which is coming up very, very soon. If you're watching this live, and just looking at my clock there, we've got lots of people with us tonight. Please do join in when we are using some of the activities by using the chat window, just as many of you did last night, which was fantastic to see. If you're watching this in replay, of course, play along live, or you can pause as you see fit. Now, I'm joined by Liz again tonight. Good evening, Liz. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm pretty good, thanks.
That's good. Do you want to tell us a little about what we're going to cover tonight?
Yep, so we're going to be looking at the pre-release materials for Part A of your Unit 4, Inquiries into Current Research. So your pre-release materials are coming out on Monday, and I'm going to go over what you need to do with those materials in the 4 weeks before your exam, how you can do it, and why you should be doing what I recommend, really.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we are at a critical stage for this one, aren't we? So,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
advice and guidance tonight, I'm sure, is going to be very much welcomed by those who are listening and watching. Just a quick reminder to everybody, as soon as we finish tonight's session, the PowerPoint that Liz is about to use will be instantly available for you. I think there's one or two other little bits and bobs we've got available for you as download tonight, which Liz will explain. And then, of course, you can rewatch the video as well if you see fit. We'll get started though, Liz, shall we?
Yep, let's do it. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to talk to you about what you're going to do with your Part A materials when they come out next Monday, the 25th. make some suggestions for how you could do it. And also, I'm going to say why I think you should take the approach that I'm going to recommend. So let's leap straight in. Okay, so the first step is to read both of the articles. So on Monday, your teacher will receive the pre-release, the Part A, and there will be an article on healthcare research and an article on social care research. It's really important that you read both of them in depth. Now, as John said, at the end of this session, you will get a download of the PowerPoint and you're going to get 4 handouts. The first one is called Reading Complex Academic Articles, and it gives you just a really simple procedure, step by step, to follow anytime you want to read a complex academic article. Really important that you read both and make the right choice for you based on your strengths in knowledge and understanding. So what is right for your friend might not be the right article for you. If we can have a look at the next slide, please, John. So this is basically a summary of my handout. So when you get your 2 articles, this is the order in which I suggest you read those articles. First thing, have a look and see, is there an abstract or a summary? Because the abstract or the summary, normally at the beginning, tells you everything you need to know. It's like an overview of the whole piece of research. Sometimes that's all you need to read. But when you get your 2 pre-release articles, you need to read more than that. The next thing I recommend is to skip to the conclusions, or sometimes it's called the recommendations section. So then you can see what the key outcomes of the research were. The next step is to go for the discussion, where you see the reasoning and the arguments. Then you can look at the introduction, which gives you the context and the purpose. Next, you're going to look at the method and the evidence, and that's really important for your question 1 or activity 1 in the exam. And the final thing that you should read is the references. The reason that reading the references really is important, we'll go over later on, but that's linked to your secondary research. So remember, you're going to get this handout, so you don't need to worry about taking lots of notes right now. You get this handout at the end. So let's have a look at the next step, please. Okay, so you've read both of the articles and you need to choose one to focus on. So when you're trying to decide which article to focus on, you need to consider what are the activities you're going to be doing in the exam. So I've given you some prompts to think about when you're choosing whether to do the health article or the social care article. So first thing to bear in mind, how well do you understand the whole research topic and how it has been explored? So how well do you understand that? Do you have some background knowledge that can feed into one of the articles? The next thing to think about is, what are the specific research methods that are used in the article? Is it one that you feel really confident about? So you might really like interviews. You might be really good at explaining the advantages and disadvantages and the reliability and validity of interviews. Or you might prefer, if you're a bit more sciencey, you might prefer experiments. So what is your overall understanding of the topic and what research methods have they used? And that helps you with question 1, but also the other questions as well. Next thing you need to think about is for your activity 2 or question 2, however you like to refer to it, which is about the effects of that research on individuals, on health and social care practitioners and wider society. So are you already, when you're reading this article, making links to those things? And that links to the next point, which is, can you link the research article you've chosen well to secondary research and to implications for provision and practice? And then the final thing is there secondary research that supports this article or refutes this article? So you may have to do a little bit of secondary research before you realise how good your chosen article is. So you might switch. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide, please, John. Okay, so step 3. You've chosen your article based on those prompts that I said about. Next thing I want you to do is use this handout, Analysing Articles. This will really help you to structure your in-depth reading and your analysis. I suggest that you get your clean copy of your chosen article and photocopy it. And then keep a clean copy and a copy that you're going to highlight and annotate. You need to do this because you need a really thorough understanding of this article. When you're sitting in your 3-hour exam on the 23rd of May, you need to know exactly what you're talking about. So if we have a look at the next slide, you can see the points that are on this handout. So the first thing you need to do when you're reading your article is think, what is this about? What is the research topic? So some things we've had in the past have been things like celiac disease, dementia, loneliness and isolation. I'm trying to think. Vulnerable adults in police custody, real varied topics. So what is the topic? Next thing you need to think about is who did the research. Was it a university? Was it an NHS practice? Was it a nurse? Was it a doctor? Was it a social worker? And then think about what research methods they used. Likely scenario is that they've used more than one research method. Okay, so go through this article and find the research methods. Is it interviews, case studies, observations? Next thing to think about is the sample, the type, the size of sample, the methodology they use to select it. Last couple of examiner reports have said that students are not talking about sampling methodology, sample type and sample size. So don't be that student. If it doesn't say specifically in the article about the sampling methodology, you can show your knowledge of what would make a good sample. So think about random sampling, representativeness of samples, okay? Next thing you're looking for are the findings. So what did this research find out? And then linked to that, what conclusions did they reach and what recommendations were made? So for your activity 3, you actually have to make recommendations of your own, but these are obviously, they need to be supported. You need to provide a rationale for your recommendations. So look at what the rationale for recommendations is in your chosen article. You also need to think about effects on individuals, practitioners of health and social care, and wider society. So, for example, if the article was looking at treatments for a really prevalent condition, say diabetes, then you can talk about the benefits to society of being like really huge in terms of saving money, improving treatments, improving quality of life, lengthening lifespan, and so on. And then think about how your article relates to question 3, which is your implications for provision and practice. So remember, provision is about the services that are provided by your local health or social care service. And then the practice is what the people are doing within that service. So, for example, my provision could be a stop smoking clinic. And then my practice is the methods that I use within my clinic to help people stop smoking. And then really, really important, students often forget this, check and see if there's a references section, because that is the best place to start your secondary research. Next slide, please, John. Okay, I've done enough talking, so let's get you guys to answer some questions. You're going to have 30 seconds to answer 3 questions. We've got mild for 1 point, spicy for 2 points, and hot for 3 points. So if you want to type your answers in the chat, that would be fabulous. Just remember 30 seconds is not very long.
Liz, if I remember, this actually lasts for 60 seconds. The music.
It?
Yes, yeah, no, it's my error on the slide. Good. Yeah, it's a little bit longer than they thought, yeah.
60 seconds, even better. Looks like it was a 30 seconds, John. Okay, Alice is saying primary research. Research I have found and gained firsthand myself. Fantastic answer, Alice. Would anyone like to tell me what a research method is? So Jade is also saying research completed myself, first-hand source. Yep, great. So Jade is saying a method to research a topic, like interviews. Yep, great. Anyone want to have a go at what is a sampling method? Okay, Jade is saying the sample are your subjects, random, etc. Alice is saying research method is the method used to get the findings, such as questionnaires or scientific experiments. Yep, great. Okay, let's have a look at my answers then, John. Okay, so primary research involves gathering data that has not been collected before. So it's any new research. So that could be done by yourself, or that could be primary research done by a researcher or a scientist. Research methods are ways of collecting and analysing data. So your common methods, which some of you guys have been posting in the chat, surveys, experiments, interviews, and observations. And then sampling, remember the lead examiner wants to see more students talking about sampling. Sampling is the process of selecting, hopefully, a representative group from the population under study. Great answers, guys. Let's have a look at the next slide, please, John. Okay, so step 4 is carrying out your secondary research. So essentially what you guys are going to do once you've got your articles on Monday and your teacher sets you off in your 8 to 10 hours of independent research is you're going to be doing a literature search. So this is like a planned, systematic look at a range of published material to gain broader understanding. So this is about you finding, I would say, at least 3 pieces of research, additional research, based on the same topic as your chosen research article, because you need to refer to your secondary research in activity 2 and activity 3 of your exam on the 23rd of May. So, John, I think we've got the handouts on the next. Oh, no, just go back. So we have 2 handouts for you guys, which you can download at the end. The first one is called the process to follow when conducting secondary research, and the second one is conducting effective online searches. So we'll have a look at those in a moment, but yeah, let's have a go at that true or false game. Okay, so to do this one, you have to look at the statement on the screen and then just type in the chat, is that a true statement or a false statement? So, secondary research involves analysing data and information from previously conducted research projects. Is that true or is that false? Okay, we've got lots of T's and trues coming through. Yeah, brilliant, guys. That is exactly what secondary research is, and that is what you will all be doing over the next 4 weeks. Great. Okay, next question. You will not need to refer to any secondary research in your external assessment on the 23rd of May. Is this true or is this false? Okay, Alice is saying false. Kiara is saying false. Nasi is saying false. Yeah, exactly. So really important, you will have to refer to secondary research in your external assessment on the 23rd of May. So that statement is false. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so conducting a secondary research through a literature search. Okay, you need to first of all define what it is that you're searching for. You need to decide how you're going to search for it and where you're going to search for it. Next slide, please. So I've got 2 great handouts for you on this one. We've got a lovely 2-sided handout on conducting searches, and then a process for you to follow when conducting your secondary research. Okay, next slide, please. So, deciding what we're searching for. You need to identify and choose your lines of inquiry. So I've put a little screenshot there from a past exam paper where Article 2, the social care research, was about older people in the UK. So the headline is 3/4 of older people in the UK are lonely, survey finds. So this article is talking about loneliness in older people. It also goes on to talk about how people don't talk about being lonely, how we need to end loneliness, that loneliness is a public health issue. It talks about some of the triggers for loneliness in older people and the role of social media in loneliness, so negative and positive. So if that was your article, you need to start thinking, what is it that I need to search for in my secondary research? So if anyone's got any ideas of what they would search for, post it in the chat. Otherwise, John, do you want to show us what I thought? Okay, so my chosen lines of inquiry, I'm going to choose 2. You don't want more than 3. I'm going to look at loneliness in older people and triggers for loneliness in older people. So that's my lines of inquiry that I've decided on. So the next step is to think about what keywords are going to help me in this search. So what keywords are most likely to produce research into similar themes? I'm going to look in the title, the hypothesis, the findings, the conclusion sections of the article. If you just show me what I chose, John. So my keywords that I'm going to be searching for: loneliness, over 50s, causes of loneliness, and UK. Really important, guys, when you're doing your research, add UK into your search terms because we want UK specific research if at all possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of you might have heard of what are called Boolean search terms. That's and, or, and not. And if you just move on to the next one for me, John. Okay, so it helps you to make your search more specific. If you use and, it narrows your search. So Google will have to look for both your search terms, puppy and kitten. If you use or, that broadens your search. So if you typed puppy or kitten into Google, you're going to get literally millions of results because it's going to give you everything that includes puppy or kitten. If you put puppy not kitten into Google, you will get search returned to you about puppies, but not about kittens. Next slide. Okay, another thing we can do is we can use phrase searching. So that's using quotation marks. If you put quotation marks around your search terms, that will mean you're searching for an exact phrase. So for example, if I put national parks into Google now, I'm going to get results that include national and parks. If I put national parks in quotation marks, I will only get results that include that exact phrase. So if we put all of this together, if I typed into Google loneliness in the over 50s in the UK, I would get results. If I put causes of loneliness in the over 50s in the UK, I would still get results. But I can make my life a lot easier by using Boolean logic and phrase searching. So if I put loneliness and in quotation marks over 50s and UK, I'm getting a much more specific result. If I put causes of loneliness in quotation marks and over 50s in quotation marks and UK, I'm going to get the best results. Remember, there's a handout on this, guys, which you can have a look at the end. Let's go to the next slide, please, John. So choosing where to search. Google is really excellent and will definitely give you results. It will give you a mixture of news reports, social media articles, journal articles, and so on. But Google Scholar can be much better for finding academic research articles. There is more information on that in your handout. Next slide, please. Okay, so top tips when choosing appropriate secondary research articles. You need to think about 2 main things. First of all, how reliable is the source? So who wrote it? Why did they write it? Where did they publish it? How long ago did they publish it? Where did they do their research? Who paid them to do the research? And so on. And then the other thing you need to think about is how relevant is this to my original chosen article? Is it going to help me to answer activity 2 and activity 3? Does it have similar findings? Okay, so think about that. That's like really important when you're choosing your articles. Does it help me with question 2, activity 2 and activity 3? Okay, next slide, please, John. Okay, so talking about whether sources are reliable or unreliable. You've got 60 seconds to look at this list on the right-hand side and decide, would these be reliable places to find published research or unreliable? Off you go. Have a type in the chat for me.
Hi Liz, I think you've muted yourself.
Oh dear, sorry. I was coughing. Yes, so we've got number 1, not reliable, 2 and 3, reliable, 2, 3, 8 and 4, reliable. Let's have a look, John. Okay, so reliable places for finding published research would be academic journals, national newspapers, although we always have to take the commentary in national newspapers on research with a pinch of salt because they may misinterpret it. Impartial online news outlets like the BBC, same caveat as before, they do put their own interpretation on the research, so just be careful. And sometimes you find research published on university websites. So if a university was involved in the research, they will often publish the findings on their website. So unreliable, Wikipedia, Facebook, tabloid newspapers, personal blogs. So I think you all did a pretty good job of that. Next one, please, John. Okay, so you've chosen your articles, or you've got a shortlist, let's say. So you probably want to have a shortlist of, say, 6, and you're going to choose 3 really good ones from there. You need to read and analyse each article in depth. So you're going through the same process that you did with your original article. You need to do the same again, I'm afraid, with your chosen shortlist of articles. So again, I suggest take a clean copy, photocopy it, and then on your second copy, do your highlighting and your annotating. Use the same handout, analysing articles, to help you, because you need to thoroughly understand each article. Next slide, please, John. So again, this is the same handout as before. Next slide. Okay, step 6 is writing your 4 sides of notes, and then you can have an additional page of references. Really important when you write your notes that you follow the rules carefully. Your teacher will explain these to you, because there are some things that you're allowed, that are permitted in those notes, and some things that are not. And the other thing that I would say is it's really important when you can copy and paste things out of the original articles into your notes. However, be very wary of just copying and pasting huge chunks of text that you don't understand. I wouldn't really recommend that you copy and paste. I always say to students, you need to paraphrase it, write it in your own words, because it's very clear to an examiner when they read your answer if you understand what you're talking about, or if you're literally just repeating what you've read. If there are any unfamiliar terms in there, look them up, find out what they mean. Your teacher can't help you, but you can use the internet. So you can search and find out everything, hopefully, you need to know on the internet. And I found personally that the students that have the more concise notes that are maybe bullet points actually find them easier to use in the exam than the students that have filled literally their 4 sides by, having no margins and squeezing it all in. Okay. So actually sometimes less is in fact more. Next slide, please, John. So my final tip to help you with activity 2, remember activity 2, you're thinking about wider society, impact on individuals and wider society. So do some additional research and find yourself some facts and figures. So for example, if your chosen article was about dementia, how many people in the UK are living with dementia? How many people do we think will be living with dementia in 20 years in the UK? Because if you can say how significant this area of research is to wider society, you're going to get really good marks on activity 2. So I think we're done.
Thanks very much, Liz. Really, really valuable stuff. Listening to that with some really careful, because I thought it's absolutely fantastic in terms of proper advice for what people are about to go through over the next few weeks. Yep. A quick shout out for those of you who got involved. Brilliant, thank you. We're always glad of that. Alice was the first person to answer tonight, along with Jade, Arcalia, V, Yofelma, Kiara, Nasip, Katie, Kirsty and Afrika. Apologies if I've mispronounced anybody's names there. Thank you for being involved. Quick question for you, Liz. I was thinking this as you were talking. Impartial news outlets. And I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. And forgive me if I'm putting you a little bit on the spot here. BBC is the obvious one, as you said. Is there another one? Is there another impartial news outlet you could advise?
Is the BBC impartial?
Well, no, that's a fair point, and you did make that point. But what would be next in terms of impartiality, as much as it can be?
Well, I guess the broadsheet newspapers, they have websites as well. They're providing online news. I think the most important thing is when any journalist is reporting on research, they will put their own spin on it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we have to think about. Sure. And if you can look at the original research, that's always far more valuable. Yeah. So comparing and contrasting 2 different articles, for example, might give you advantages and disadvantages, or different viewpoints. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now, Liz has mentioned a few times, and I put it in the chat window about the downloads. Let's be absolutely clear for people, because they can see how valuable they're going to be. Yeah. In a few seconds' time, I'm going to press the finish button, and this stops being a live presentation and becomes a replay. So if you want to find the download, you go back to the Tutor to You website, go back to the live streams, but now look up replays and find tonight's session, and the download will be available there for you to download, as well as, of course, rewatching this entire video if you see fit. Just goes for me then to say massive thank you to Liz for putting that together and presenting tonight. Really, really valuable stuff. The very best of luck to all of you who've been watching tonight, and all of you who are watching on replay. Good luck with when you receive all of that information and the process that you're about to go through in terms of making sure that you get it all together and ready for your exams in its finality. We will be back in about 3 weeks' time, when we're going to do some more revision blasts, this time for Unit 1 and Unit 2. I think I'm right there, Liz, aren't we? That's what we've got lined up next. So, a little bit of a hiatus for the next couple of weeks while the Tutor 2 staff are out and about on our annual tour of the country, delivering our revision conferences. And then we'll be back with a little bit more health and social care BTEC National Revision Blasts. Okay, good night, everybody. Brilliant. Bye, everyone.